They say your childhood friend knows you better than anyone else in this world. For me, that person was Sara. We grew up together, studied together, and even dreamed together. She wasn't just a friend, she was family. At least, that's what I believed. I still remember the first time we met. I was 7, shy and quiet, the kind of child who would rather sit in the corner with a book than play outside. And then came Sara, bold, fearless, with a smile that could light up an entire room. She was the kind of girl who could convince anyone to follow her lead. Somehow, she chose me as her best friend, and from that day on, we were inseparable. We shared everything: school secrets, childhood crushes, even our lunches. Sara was always the one with the ideas, and I was the one who followed. If she said we should skip homework and sneak out to play, I agreed. If she wanted to confront a bully, I stood beside her. She was the fire, I was the calm. Together, we balanced each other. But what I didn't realize back then was that even fire, no matter how warm it feels, can burn you alive. Our families became close too. My parents adored her, and hers treated me like their own. Everyone around us would say, "These two are like sisters." And I believed it. I trusted her more than anyone else. In my innocent heart, I never once thought she could harm me. Sara often told me, "We're going to grow up, achieve great things, and always be there for each other." I believed every word. For me, she was more than a friend. She was a promise of a future where no one could break us apart. Years passed, and our bond only grew stronger. We studied late nights together, whispered secrets under the stars, and talked about our dreams. I wanted to become a teacher. She wanted to be an entrepreneur. We laughed about how one day she would be rich, and I would teach her kids in school. Life seemed simple, innocent, and safe. But life, it never stays that way. Even in those golden days of childhood, there were signs, small, almost invisible, that I ignored. Times when Sara's smile would hide envy, when her eyes lingered a little too long on the things that were mine. Like the dress my mother bought me on my birthday, or the compliments I received from teachers. She laughed it off, but I noticed her silence. Still, I trusted her blindly. After all, she was Sara, my best friend, my sister, my other half. If only I had known, the same girl who held my hand in the brightest moments of my life would one day push me into the darkest. As the years rolled by, childhood slowly faded into memories. We were no longer the two little girls running barefoot in the street, laughing over silly jokes. We had grown up, and with that, something inside me began to change. Sara wasn't just my best friend anymore. She had become the center of my world. It started subtly, the way my heart skipped a beat when she smiled, the way I felt jealous when she gave too much attention to someone else. At first, I thought it was just the bond of years of friendship, but deep down, I knew it was more than that. I was falling in love. But how could I tell her? How could I risk ruining the one relationship I treasured the most? I kept my feelings hidden, locking them deep inside my heart. To her, I was still the same loyal friend who would stand by her side no matter what. We went to college together. New people entered our lives, but our bond remained unshaken, or so I thought. She became the popular one, always surrounded by admirers. I was the quiet shadow, content just being near her. Every compliment she got felt like a victory for me, and every insult thrown her way felt like an attack on my own heart. One evening, as we sat on the rooftop of her house, watching the sunset paint the sky in hues of gold and crimson, she turned to me and whispered, "Promise me, no matter what happens, you'll always stay by my side. I didn't hesitate. Always. That word wasn't just a promise. It was my confession, my silent way of saying, I love you. But love, I would soon learn, is rarely simple. Sara began to change. Maybe it was the pressure of adulthood, maybe it was ambition, or maybe it was something darker. She became restless, hungry for more recognition, more power, more success. While I was content with small joys, she always looked at life like a battlefield to conquer. And yet, I loved her all the same. When she failed an exam, I stayed up nights helping her study. When she cried over a broken relationship, I held her until she fell asleep. When she doubted herself, I reminded her of her strength. I gave her all of me, piece by piece, without ever asking for anything in return. There were moments, though, moments when I thought she felt the same. The way she held my hand longer than necessary, the way her eyes softened when she looked at me, the way she whispered, I don't know what I'd do without you. Those little moments kept my hope alive. They made me believe that maybe, just maybe, my love wasn't one-sided. But love has a cruel way of testing hearts. One day, during a college event, I overheard her talking to her friends. She laughed and said, "She's too naive. She'll follow me anywhere. I don't even have to try." The words cut through me like a blade. I wanted to confront her, to ask what she meant, but I couldn't. Instead, I buried my pain and convinced myself that she didn't mean it, that maybe it was just a joke, nothing serious. Because the thought of losing her was scarier than the thought of being used, and so I stayed. I stayed because love made me blind. I stayed because I believed in the girl who once promised we'd always be together. I stayed because I thought love could change everything. But what I didn't know was that love would soon change me in ways I could never have imagined. Because the same bond that made me stronger would one day shatter me completely. Life has a strange way of showing you the truth. It never comes all at once. It drips slowly, like poison in water, until one day you realize the taste has changed forever. With Sara, that poison began with small things. She would forget to return my calls, even though I knew she was free. She started keeping secrets, whispering on the phone, and hanging up whenever I entered the room. At first, I told myself it was normal. We were growing up. People change. But deep down, a shadow of doubt began to creep into my heart. The first real crack appeared during our final year in college. We had been preparing for an important project presentation, something that could decide our future careers. We had promised each other that we'd work together as a team, just like always. But on the day of the presentation, I walked into the auditorium and froze. There she was, standing on stage, not beside me, but with someone else, a rival group. My name wasn't on the project. My contribution wasn't even acknowledged. She had erased me. I sat in the audience, numb, as she delivered our work like it was hers alone. The applause that followed felt like thunder tearing through my chest. Every clap was a reminder that my trust had been betrayed. When it was over, I confronted her. My voice trembled, my hands shook. Why, Sara? Why would you do this? She looked at me, unfazed. A cold smile touched her lips. Because you're too small to dream big. You're happy with little things. I want more. And if I had kept you by my side, I would have been stuck with your small world. Her words were sharper than knives. I wanted to scream, to cry, to hate her, but I couldn't, because even then, a part of me still loved her. Even then, I wanted to believe there was some misunderstanding, some hidden reason that could justify what she had done. But she didn't stop there. As weeks passed, she grew more distant. She stopped introducing me as her best friend and started treating me like an accessory she could use whenever convenient. If she needed help with assignments, I was her savior. If she needed emotional support, I was her shoulder. But when it came to recognition, to success, to glory, she stood alone, shining under the spotlight while I disappeared in her shadow. One evening, I caught her with a group of friends, laughing. I stood quietly at a distance, listening. My stomach turned as I heard her words. She's obsessed with me. She'll never leave me, no matter how I treat her. It's pathetic, really. The group laughed with her. My heart shattered into 1,000 silent pieces. I walked away that night, tears blurring my vision, each step heavier than the last. For the first time, I asked myself, was I a fool all along? Still, I couldn't let go. My love, my loyalty, my years of devotion, they held me prisoner. I kept waiting for the girl who once promised always. I kept hoping that somewhere inside her, that old Sara still existed. But the truth was undeniable. She wasn't the same. Our names recalled. Families cheered. Friends hugged each other with joy. I looked around, searching for her, hoping she would find me in the crowd, that we would celebrate together, that we would remember the bond we had shared since childhood. But she wasn't looking at me. She was standing with her new circle, smiling, posing for pictures as if I didn't exist. When I finally approached her, she gave me a glance that burned colder than ice. Don't follow me anymore. We're not kids. This, whatever it was, is over. Over. That single word was the bullet that ended the life I thought I had built with her. I walked away that day with a hollow chest, my soul echoing with emptiness. I had lost not just a friend, not just a love, but a part of myself. But little did I know, this was just the beginning. Because the first crack in my heart was only preparing me for the storm that was yet to come. Betrayal doesn't strike like lightning. It builds like a storm. First, the winds grow restless, then the clouds turn dark, until finally, the sky itself tears apart. For me, that storm carried the name Sara. After graduation, life took us on different paths, but the invisible thread between us still tied me down. Even after everything, I couldn't stop caring for her. I told myself it was loyalty, history, love. In truth, it was weakness. Sara had joined a corporate firm in the city. She was thriving, her charm making her the center of every circle. I, on the other hand, had chosen a quieter life, writing, teaching, and holding on to the small dreams I once thought we shared. But destiny wasn't done testing me. One evening, my phone rang. It was Sara. For a moment, my heart betrayed me, leaping with hope. Maybe she wanted to make amends. Maybe the old Sara had finally returned. Her voice was soft, almost desperate. "Emma, can we meet? Please, it's important." Despite every wound she had carved into me, I agreed. Some scars never stop bleeding. We met at a cafe we used to visit in college. She walked in, radiant as ever, her smile lighting up the room. For a second, I almost forgot the pain, but her words brought me crashing back to reality. "Emma, I need a favor. There's someone I want you to meet." I froze. The way she said someone felt heavy, loaded. And then he walked in. Tall, confident, with a charm that could disarm anyone. His name was Daniel. She introduced him as her fiancé. The room spun. My chest tightened. I forced a smile, my hands trembling beneath the table. I wanted to scream, to ask her how she could drag me here just to break me again. But worse than her engagement was what came next. Daniel, this is Emma. She's my oldest friend. She'll help us with the wedding preparations. Friend, help, wedding. Each word was a dagger. She wasn't just moving on, she wanted me to carry her forward. To stand by her side while she erased me completely. I swallowed my pride, my pain, my tears, and agreed. Because my heart, foolish as ever, couldn't say no. Days turned into weeks. I helped Sara with her dress fittings, with guest lists, with endless details. Daniel treated me kindly, almost like family. And that kindness was another wound, because every smile from him reminded me of the life I had dreamed of, with her. But the storm was only gathering. One night, after a long day of preparations, I overheard them talking. Sara's voice was sharp, dripping with disdain. Emma? She's just useful. Pathetic, really. She still clings to me like a lost puppy. Let her help. It saves me money and effort. Daniel laughed lightly. Still, she seems loyal. Not everyone would do this for you. Sara scoffed. That's because she's weak. She doesn't know how to live without me. And she never will. Those words shattered whatever fragments of hope I had left. I stumbled out, tears burning my cheeks, the storm finally breaking inside me. I realized then, Sara hadn't changed. She had never changed. The girl I loved, the friend I trusted, was nothing but a mask, hiding selfishness, greed, and cruelty. The wedding day arrived like a funeral in my heart. I stood among the guests, watching her in her white dress, radiant and bold. Daniel stood beside her, unaware of the venom in her soul. As they exchanged vows, the applause roared around me, but inside, silence screamed. And yet, in that silence, something else stirred. Not love, not hope, not weakness, but resolve. I finally saw her for who she was, and I finally saw myself for what I had become. A pawn in her game, a shadow in her light, a prisoner of my own devotion. As she kissed Daniel, sealing her new life, I turned away. For the first time, I didn't cry. For the first time, I didn't break, because I knew the storm had done its work. It hadn't destroyed me, it had awakened me. And though Sara thought she had won, she had no idea. The real story had just begun. Some loons bleed quietly. They don't scream, they don't demand attention, until one day they drown you from within. After Sara's wedding, I returned home like a ghost. My body moved. My lips smiled when people asked about her, but inside, nothing remained. I thought the storm had passed. I thought I was finally free. But the truth is, freedom doesn't come when someone leaves you. It comes when you finally let go. And I hadn't. At night, I still saw her face in my dreams. Her laughter haunted me in the silence. Her betrayal replayed endlessly in my mind, like a movie I couldn't stop watching. Weeks passed. I stopped eating properly, stopped meeting people, stopped living. My world shrank into four walls, filled only with memories I wished I could erase. Until one evening, something inside me snapped. I was sitting in my room, staring at an old photo of us. Two girls, arms around each other, smiles bright, promises unspoken yet understood. For years, that picture had been my treasure. But now, all I could see was the lie behind the smiles. My hands trembled as I ripped it apart. Piece by piece, I shredded the memories. The letters she wrote me, the gifts she gave, the dress I once borrowed from her. I tore them until nothing remained but dust and ashes.
And in that destruction, I felt something new. Not emptiness, not pain, but clarity. I finally saw what I had refused to accept all along. Sara had never loved me. She had never cared. I had been nothing but a tool, a shadow, a stepping stone on her path to success. The realization was brutal, but it was also liberating. Because if she had destroyed me, then I had nothing left to lose. The breaking point didn't come with tears. It came with silence. That night, I stood before the mirror and looked into my own eyes. For the first time, I didn't see a victim. I didn't see the weak, fragile girl who begged for scraps of affection. I saw someone who had survived fire, storm, and betrayal, and was still standing. And in that reflection, a thought whispered. What if pain is not the end? What if it's the beginning? The thought grew louder, sharper, until it became a vow. I would not stay broken. I would not remain her pawn. If Sara had written me out of her story, I would write my own. And this time, it wouldn't be about love or friendship. It would be about power, about justice, about revenge. The seed had been planted. Over the next weeks, I rebuilt myself piece by piece. I started working harder, writing more, connecting with people beyond my small circle. My words, once filled with heartbreak, now carried fire. People listened, they related, they followed. I was no longer invisible. And yet, even as I rose, one truth remained. Sara was still out there, living her perfect life, basking in the success she had stolen, in the love she didn't deserve. And deep inside, I knew I couldn't rest until she faced the storm she had once unleashed on me. But revenge isn't born overnight. It's like a fire that smolders in silence, waiting for the right breath of air to ignite. For now, I waited. I planned. I gathered strength. Because one day, she would fall. And when that day came, she would finally understand the cost of breaking me. Revenge doesn't begin with fire. It begins with silence. A silence so deep, it allows every thought to sharpen, every wound to harden, every tear to turn into steel. For me, that silence became my weapon. Sara was married now, living her new life with Daniel. On the surface, everything looked perfect. Her career was thriving. Her husband adored her, and her social circle treated her like royalty. But perfection is fragile. It only takes a crack for the whole mirror to shatter. And I was going to be that crack. The first step wasn't to attack her. It was to rebuild myself. I focused on my work, pouring all my pain into words. My stories carried the weight of betrayal, the sting of lies, the hunger for justice. People resonated with them. My following grew. First dozens, then hundreds, then thousands. Suddenly, my name began to matter in the literary circles of the city. And with every new reader, every new opportunity, my confidence returned. I was no longer just Emma, the girl Sara had broken. I was Emma, the voice people couldn't ignore. But inside, I was still waiting, watching, preparing. The opportunity arrived sooner than I expected. One evening, I received an invitation to a corporate seminar. It was hosted by none other than Daniel's firm. My heart raced when I saw Sara's name listed among the panel speakers. Fate was finally opening the door. I attended the seminar dressed in confidence and silence. Sara didn't recognize me at first. too caught up in the flashes of cameras and the glow of admiration. But when her eyes finally met mine across the hall, I saw it. A flicker, a hesitation. For the first time, she wasn't in control. Daniel, ever kind, approached me later. "Emma, Sara told me so much about you. It's been a while, hasn't it?" I smiled. "Yes, it has. I'm glad to see you both doing well." But my words were coated in ice. Over the next weeks, I let myself slide into their world again, but this time, not as a friend, as an observer. I noticed the cracks Daniel couldn't see, the way Sara's smile faltered when he wasn't looking, the way she rolled her eyes behind his back, the lies she told about her late nights at work, the subtle manipulations that had once destroyed me, now directed at him. And for the first time, I didn't feel pain watching her. I felt power, because now I knew her game, and I knew how to play it better. My plan wasn't to destroy her in one strike. That would be too easy, too merciful. No, Sara had taken years to break me. I would take my time breaking her. I began with Daniel, not by seduction, not by lies, but by truth. I became a confidant, a silent support. When Sara dismissed him coldly, I listened. When she mocked his dreams, I encouraged them. I never overstepped, never showed my hand. But slowly, his trust in me grew. At the same time, I built my public presence stronger. I spoke at seminars, wrote columns, gained recognition. People began to compare me and Sara, not as friends, but as rivals. And though she smiled in public, I saw the bitterness in her eyes every time someone praised me in her presence. That bitterness was the first seed of her downfall. But seeds need time to grow. So I waited, patient as stone, while her life continued. She still thought she held the strings, still thought I was harmless. But deep down, she knew something had changed. Because the girl she once mocked, the girl she once broke, no longer existed. In her place stood someone stronger, sharper, someone who had learned to wield pain like a blade. And though she didn't know it yet, every step she took, every lie she told, every mask she wore was leading her closer to the storm I was preparing, the storm of revenge. Revenge is not loud. It whispers. It doesn't strike like a sword. It bleeds you slowly, one cut at a time, until you realize too late that you're surrounded by shadows. And now, Sara was standing in that shadow, my shadow. I had spent months rebuilding myself, stronger, sharper, more dangerous than she could ever imagine. But this wasn't the time to reveal my hand. No, the real power of revenge lies in patience. The first move came at a charity gala. Sara loved these events, dressing in expensive gowns, smiling for cameras, letting the world believe she was flawless. But perfection is brittle, and I knew exactly where to strike. During the gala, a journalist approached me. "Emma, we've heard a lot about your work. People say you write from real experience. Is it true your stories are inspired by betrayal?"
I smiled, calm, deliberate. Every story has truth hidden inside it. Sometimes the mask people wear in public is the biggest lie of all. The journalist leaned in. "Are you referring to someone in particular?" My eyes flicked toward Sara, who was busy laughing across the hall. I didn't answer. Silence is louder than words. The article that came out the next morning spread like wildfire. Writer Emma hints at high society hypocrisy. Readers speculated. People whispered. And though no names were mentioned, Sara's circle began to look at her differently. The silent game had begun. The second move was Daniel. I never tried to steal him from her. That wasn't my revenge. My goal was to make him see what I had seen all along. Whenever Sara dismissed him, I was there to listen. Whenever she mocked his ideas, I praised them. Slowly, he began to notice the difference between how she treated him and how I did. One evening, he confided in me. Emma, sometimes I feel like I don't even know her anymore. She's different when we're alone, cold, distant. I placed a hand on his arm, steady and sincere. Daniel, love should never make you feel small. Maybe you just need to see her without the mask. That seed was enough. Doubt is the most dangerous poison, and I had just placed it in his heart. The third move was public. I was invited to speak at a literary conference. Sara was there too, representing her firm. The hall was full of people who adored her confidence. When it was my turn, I spoke about betrayal, about how the people closest to you can sometimes use your loyalty as a weapon, about how masks can hide the ugliest truths. Every word was like glass, sharp, clear, impossible to ignore. The audience applauded thunderously, and in that applause, I looked at Sara. Her smile was still on her lips, but her eyes betrayed her. She knew every word was about her. And yet, she couldn't expose me without exposing herself. That's the beauty of the silent game. The enemy destroys themselves, trying to fight shadows. As weeks passed, Sara's image began to crack. Colleagues whispered behind her back. Daniel grew colder, questioning her late nights and secretive calls. Her friends noticed the bitterness in her voice whenever my name was mentioned. And all the while, I remained silent, calm, patient, because revenge is not about rushing. It's about letting your enemy fall into the pit they dug for you. But deep inside, I knew this was only the beginning. The silent game was just the first act. The real storm, the one that would tear Sara's world apart, was still waiting. And I would be there, smiling when the mask she wore finally shattered. The night was darker than usual, the air heavy with secrets untold. Emma sat alone in her room, her fingers trembling over an old letter she had found buried inside the floorboards. The ink was faded, but the words cut like blades. The truth will destroy you before the lies ever could. Her heart raced. Who had written this? And more importantly, was it meant for her? Meanwhile, Adrian was pacing his study, eyes bloodshot, the liquor untouched on his desk. He had uncovered surveillance tapes hidden deep inside his mansion's basement. Each tape showed Emma entering rooms she claimed she had never visited. One in particular chilled him to the bone. Emma standing over his unconscious body, whispering something inaudible, then leaving before he woke. Adrian's mind spiraled. Was Emma the enemy? Or was someone planting these pieces to tear them apart? Across the city, Leo smiled from his balcony. He had orchestrated every thread of this web, pulling strings from the shadows. Emma, Adrian, even the police, they were all pawns in his game. Yet even he knew that pawns could sometimes turn into queens. The storylines began to collide. Emma's hidden past, Adrian's paranoia, and Leo's thirst for revenge. The only certainty was that the lies would soon unravel, and when they did, blood would follow. The storm arrived the next evening. Thunder cracked across the sky as if the heavens themselves demanded justice. Emma, Adrian, and Leo finally stood in the same room for the first time. The abandoned warehouse smelled of rust and decay, shadows swallowing their faces. Adrian raised his gun, his voice shaking. "Tell me the truth, Emma. Were you behind all of this?" Tears welled in her eyes, but her voice was steady. "No, Adrian. I was protecting you. Protecting us. The tapes you saw, they were forged by him." Her finger pointed at Leo. Leo laughed, slow and cruel. "You still don't get it, do you? I didn't need to kill you both. I just needed you to destroy each other. And you were doing so perfectly." The air tightened with silence. Then, in one swift move, Adrian lowered his gun, only to turn it toward Leo. But Leo was faster. He pulled his blade, slashing across Adrian's arm. Emma screamed, rushing forward, tackling Leo into the steel beams. The warehouse echoed with chaos, gunshots, screens, metal crashing. Finally, as the rain poured in through shattered windows, Emma managed to push Leo off the ledge. He fell into the darkness below, his laughter fading into silence. Adrian collapsed, bleeding but alive. Emma held him, tears mixing with the rain. "It's over," she whispered. But deep inside, both knew the truth. The storm outside had ended, but the storm within their hearts had only just begun.